Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. Today we're talking about gold skeleton keys in Wizard101. From how to get them repeatedly, to the actual bosses themselves, everything you need to know, their cheats, to their drops. Now this video is very important, very specifically for life and death wizards, because these are the only free ways to get Ship of Fools, Rat Spin, and Pigsy. Now technically you can craft Rat Spin and Pigsy, but let's be real, you're not crafting Rat Spin and Pigsy. Those recipes are insanely difficult. So today I'm going to go over all of the bosses, all the acquisition methods, everything you need to know. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, if you didn't watch my wooden skeleton key video, that is fine, but you can see here, I have a spreadsheet that I made in that video. The spreadsheet also includes wood and stone skeleton keys, everything you need to know about them, and the bosses. Here you can see I can click on each of these and click on up here to actually go to the wiki page for the different bosses and the gold skeleton keys. So if this video isn't like a perfect description of the boss, or you want to see what else it drops beyond what I say, you can go to the spreadsheet, click on it, open the boss, and it will be the max tier of the boss. Now, if you don't know, skeleton key bosses go in 4 separate tiers usually. It might be like 1 to 40, and then 40 to 80, 80 to 120, and then 120 onwards. Now, for gold skeleton keys, there are a few ways to get them, and this is very important because you're going to be needing quite a few gold skeleton keys. I found that on average, you need about 10 to get most spells, to at least unlock most spells, and you might need more or you might need less depending on how lucky you are. For example, my friend and I did Baron von Bracken like a few months ago. It took us 8 gold skeleton keys to actually get Pigsy, so keep that in mind. That's probably around at least how many keys you're gonna need. You might need some more. Now, there are a few ways to get gold skeleton keys. The best one, in my opinion, is if you complete every main and side quest in a world, you get 1 gold skeleton key. Now, if I come to my fire here and I go to my badges, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I searched through all of them and I actually don't have a redeemable skeleton key right here. If you go to, say, the Dragonspire Master Badge, which is to complete all quests in Dragonspire, you can get a gold skeleton key, which you can claim right here. You can get quite a few gold skeleton keys this way. I think this is the best way to get gold skeleton keys, and if you do all of the side quests in the game, specifically in Arc 1 and Arc 2, that's going to net you at least 10. By that point, you can also get more from other methods, so this is probably the best repeatable method. Even if you just make a new wizard and do all the side quests in Wizard City, it'll probably take you 2 to 3 hours to get a gold skeleton key, which isn't great, but it is repeatable, so keep that in mind. The Eloise quests in Novus and Walleroo also give 1 each, so keep that in mind if you want to. Once per challenge mode fight, you can get 1. Some spiral showcases and Scroll of Fortune rewards can give them as well. You can craft them from Beast Moon, PvP, and Decathlon rewards. I don't know anything about this because I don't play any of those game modes, but I'm sure that they exist if you want to go do those game modes and craft some gold skeleton keys that way. Not the best way to do it, IMO. Majid, the genie, gives them as well for some loyalty tokens, so if you want, you can get them there. Obviously, that doesn't work on console, but on PC, you can do that. And then finally, the last repeatable method for these skeleton keys is actually from daily assignments. Now, if I go to Aegon stats here and I look at the daily assignment rewards, I believe every 15 days you're guaranteed to get a gold skeleton key. So if you keep doing daily assignments repeatedly every day, you will get 2 gold skeleton keys a month, which isn't a lot, but if you combine it with all of the other methods of acquisition, eventually you're going to be having a decent buildup of skeleton keys. You can see my fire alone right now has like 6 gold skeleton keys, and I have quite a few more in my houses and all my other wizards. It all adds up. Eventually you'll be getting plenty of gold skeleton keys, so if you're looking for at least just like, 10 to 15 just to farm like Drowned Dan for Ship of Fools, you can in fact do that. Now, before we actually get into each of the bosses, their cheats, and what they drop, real quick, I do want to say that the best and easiest way to actually farm these spellments, if you have a lower level wizard and you get help from a max level wizard, these dungeons are super easy because it bases the actual boss itself off of what the lowest level is. So for example, if you bring a level 40 into the Drowned Dan fight in Celestia, it will be significantly easier than if you bring like multiple level 170s into it. So if you can get help from a max level as a low level, supply the gold skeleton keys yourself, whatever, you'll find that it is much easier to actually farm these bosses than if you just did it at max level. Now, the max level won't actually get the rewards, but I do find that there will be max levels who are willing to help and, willing to go through the dungeon. And while they won't get the drops, it is a lot easier for a max level to power through a dungeon than it is for a low level. For example, King Borr is very easy on the first level. He doesn't have any cheats on the first level. So keep that in mind. All right, so first up, we have the Spirit of Ignorance here in Crab Alley, directly to the right upon entering. The Spirit of Ignorance drops Berry Surprise, Camp Bandit, and Splash Squatch, which to that guy that said I forgot Splash Squatch in my ranking AoE videos, it is not an AoE. I don't really know where you got that from. This boss has a few difficult cheats, but basically to sum it up, at the start of round 1, he'll cast a minus 300 version of Brace on himself, which basically makes him unhittable. If you cast a blade, he'll cast Enfeeble on the target of the blade. You can use Aegis Blades to prevent that. If you cast a Feint on the boss, he will cast a Sacrifice. Mass Feint will not trigger this, so Mass Feint is very useful to have. If a wizard casts a single target trap on the Spirit of Ignorance, he will cast Cleanse Ward all on himself. So he'll remove all traps on himself. Don't single target that. The round after his aura is removed, he will use a minus 100% protected shield of the wizard's school, not including balance. Each time after a damage spell is used on a boss, he'll recast all shields based on the wizard's school. If a wizard uses Steel Ward on the shield, he'll recast all the shields. And then every 5 rounds, he'll place a Shadow Deferred overtime, dealing 100,000 shadow damage after 2 rounds on the wizard. So this boss seems difficult, seems intimidating. The basic strategy for this, it's actually really easy, is either hit the round that you have a balance, use Supernova to remove the aura, or have a balance as a hitter, and that balance basically spams hits. Those are the 2 main ways to do it, and you can probably pretty easily do this, especially if you have Mass Feint. It's going to be super easy. I think you can 2-round this if you have a balance using Supernova, a death using Mass Feint, use a protected blade or 2 on the storm, boom, easy, and then call it a day. It's not going to be the most challenging, and this boss doesn't really have anything that interesting besides those 3 spells. He does also drop the Snappy Lobster and Sea Turtle mounts, but otherwise nothing too interesting for sure. This is probably one of the easier bosses, not that hard as long as you have a balance with Supernova. All right, next up we have Baron von Bracken here in Tanglewood Way, right here on the map. Now Baron von Bracken drops Pigsy, Angry Snow Pigs, and Ninja Piglets, and also 2 separate unicorn mounts. Honestly, not the most interesting drops besides the Pigsy. Obviously, if you're a life, you very much want Pigsy. It is probably the best AoE healing spell in this entire game. Now, Baron von Bracken is actually a very interesting boss, because basically, this boss has 2 million health. I know, it sounds insane. If you deal less than 1 million damage in 1 hit, he will restore his health to full. So the entire point of this boss is basically to mass spam and try to do like the 1 in a million badge to actually kill him. If you cast a Feint on him, he'll cast a natural attack on you, which is basically entirely useless. He's not going to remove the Feint according to the wiki right here. So the real easiest way to beat this boss is to try to do like a triple or a quad Feint, mass blade your hitter, and then just hit the boss. He's not going to be that hard. He only resists death. As long as you are any other school other than death, you can hit this boss. Really, I think that this is just a blade spam into a Feint spam into a massive single hit. Like you could probably use a Scion and the Scion would probably just kill. Like this is actually one of the easier cheating bosses to deal with in terms of gold skeleton keys. All right, next up we have Takanobu the Masterless right here in the Cave of Solitude. Takanobu the Masterless actually drops quite a few different spell elements. On top of that, he drops gear and mount, so he's actually pretty interesting of a boss to farm. He drops the Apocalypse spell, Catch of the Day, Goat Monk, Ice Elemental, Monk of Morning, Ninja Pigs, and Samurai. So some new spells, some old ninja spellement spells. Now he also drops gear, which is very interesting. He also drops a reagent, and with that reagent, you can actually craft the gear right here from this vendor. He tends to drop 6 to 8 sword oil per run, and you can then use it to craft the gear right out here. It's not the most interesting or good gear in the world. You can see here, like compare it to Merciless, it's not even that much better than Merciless. Its damage is actually worse. So realistically, this isn't like the best gear to farm in the world. I wouldn't even consider it to be good really. Now, in terms of his cheats, this one's actually incredibly easy. There's no blades. Anytime you hit an enemy when a bladeless Ronin is alive, they will cast a Dispel on you. So basically, the entire point of this fight and the easiest way to actually deal with this fight is try to one-shot all of the enemies. So just massive trap all of the enemies, boom, instantly kill. It's not going to be the hardest thing in the world. Feint stack into AoE spell. It's going to be really easy, actually. This is not one of the most difficult fights. Alright, next up is Lady Stonegaze here in Aquila, right here next to Atlantia. She drops the Aquilan Dual Chariot mount. On top of that, she drops the spell elements for Athena, Hephaestus, and Queen Calypso. She also drops some crown gear as well, but nothing too interesting in my opinion. Really, this boss doesn't have the best drops, honestly. Out of all of the key bosses, she is one of the worst in my opinion. Now, how this boss works is basically if you cast literally any spell on her, she will polymorph the wizard into a statue for 99 rounds. round. Polymorph has a deck of 77 cards, all being pass cards except for one break-free myth card. You just discard the pass cards until you find the break-free. If Lady Stonegaze is damaged by a spell that's not from the blindfolded hits, she will use a moon version of Blessing to restore 100% of max health on herself, and at the start of every other round, one of the following spells will be given to wizards who aren't polymorphed, and it's basically just a bunch of blindfolded hits, so you just gotta spam the blindfolded hits. This fight isn't anything particularly difficult whatsoever. You just spam those hits, hope that you kill, that's it. There isn't really anything more to this boss. It's kind of just an RNG boss, if I'm being completely honest. All right, next up we have King Borr here in Saverstead Pass, which I'm not going to go too close because the sound of that waterfall will annoy me. Now, King Borr drops Grendel's Amends, Hammer of Thor, and Ratatoskir's Spin. So this boss is incredibly important for specifically Life Wizards because you want to get Rat Spin as soon as possible for that 4-pip AoE. Now, King Borr's cheats aren't actually anything that interesting or difficult. He has a minion named Grendelin who casts a Shadow Sentinel that provides 75% intercept. So basically any hit that you use on King Borr will hit Grendelin for 75% of that damage. A wizard cannot be late to combat. Now, if Grendelin is defeated before King Borr, he will cast a moon version of Blessing to restore 100% health. If a feint is cast on King Borr, he will cast an AoE version of Cleanse Ward, so no feints as well, and that's basically it. The entire strategy for this fight is honestly to just try to massively blade up, hit King Borr, kill King Borr, and then massively blade up again and kill Grendelin. You might end up reviving Grendelin like 2 or 3 times by the end of the fight if you're using AoEs, or even if you're just using regular single target spells because of that intercept, but you just keep hitting until eventually you kill both of them. Really easy, you just want to kill King Borr as soon as possible. Now, King Borr also drops gear from the Grizzleheim Spell Elemental pack. Nothing too interesting that's worth farming. Honestly, this guy is just mainly worth farming for the spell elements. He also drops the Raven and then the Snowy and Tawny Ram mounts, but that's pretty much it. All right, next up is the Krampus boss, and I can't actually show you where he is because he only spawns in during Christmas time. So I'm not going to be able to show you where he is, but apparently he does spawn in Wizard City Colossus Boulevard, in Celestia Base Camp where I am right now, and Walrusburg Harbor in Polaris. So he has 3 spawn locations. You can go to any one of the 3. It's the same boss no matter what. Now, Krampus drops both the Krampus and the Reindeer Knight spell elements. So not the best spell elements, but Ice might want Reindeer Knight. I don't know. For Krampus, if a wizard joins after the duel is started, he'll cast a shadow version of Scald, dealing 750 fire damage over 3 rounds, and a minus 75 version of Smoke Mantle on the wizard, so don't join late. If a wizard casts a blade, he may cast Steel Charm. This deals all charms from the wizard who cast the blade, and he will occasionally cast this throughout the duel, so blades are probably a no-go. If a wizard casts a feint spell, he will cast Cleanse Ward Shadow -1 2 times, which makes Indemnity ineffective. Mass Feint does not trigger this cheat, so you can use Mass Feint as well. After Krampus has summoned his minion and has traps, Krampus will cast a shadow version of Dimension Shift that transfers all negative hanging effects that are on him, example traps, to a random ally. At the beginning of round 5 and then randomly after, when he has no minions, he will cast a shadow spell to summon 3 random minions. I think this boss, not the worst in the world. I think the play is going to be to just frenzy into AoE spam him. Obviously, he's going to resummon the minions, but I think that the best way to do this is probably going to be frenzy AoE spam. It's not going to be that difficult. There are other ways you could probably do this, and you could use Mass Feint. You could use blades and hope that he doesn't steal them from you. It's up to you. I would, again, just probably recommend spamming. This boss isn't anything too difficult. He just kind of has a little bit of an annoying cheat. That's really it. He also drops a bunch of gear from the Christmas packs, so if you want, you can get that as well, and he drops candy cane mounts. These spell elements are the main focus here for sure. All right, next up is the High Loremagus here in the Athenaeum, right across from actually where the Lore Master is. Now, the High Loremagus does drop Brimstone Revenant, Keeper of the Flame, Lore Master, and Luminous Weaver spell elements, and also some of the Dragon mounts, but that's pretty much it. She also drops Jade gear, so if you want Jade gear, which gives a bunch of resist, she drops that as well. Now, this boss is interesting, but honestly, more trouble than I think she's really worth, unless you really want any of these drops. At the start of the first round and every round thereafter, for any wizard lacking an aura that she gives, she will apply a minus 200% accuracy aura of the target school that lasts for 99 turns. If a wizard replaces the aura, she will recast it on him, and if a feint/mass feint is cast on her, she will cast a Camp Bandit tier 1 4A, which converts a trap on herself to a trap on the enemy, so no feints as well. This boss is actually an interesting one in the fact that basically what it's forcing you to do is to dual school. So as long as you have a wizard who can train a secondary school, if you train a secondary 7-pip AoE, so say you go up to like Scarecrow on fire, whatever, get a bunch of damage for death, have a bunch of people use like Spiritual Blade on you, probably, you're going to be able to beat this boss pretty easily. It's nothing too difficult whatsoever. You can also use like Spiritual Traps. It's only feints that are removed. Not a particularly difficult one. A boss nonetheless that exists in this game for sure. All right, next up we have this section I'm sure most people clicked on this entire video to actually see, which is Drowned Dan here in the Science Center, who drops Ship of Fools. Now, he also dropped Spiritual Tribunal, which is pretty good for a balanced wizard. It's basically Spectral Blast, but a spirit version. He drops Nautilus Unleashed and Celestial Intervention. Pretty good spells, and very specifically, obviously, Ship of Fools, best 4-pip AoE in the entire game. Now, he does drop a random distribution of 14 to 16 spell elements, so you should guarantee, if you're lucky, get Ship of Fools within 10 runs. You should. If you don't, I don't know, you're just pretty unlucky. So again, you probably only need about 10 gold skeleton keys to actually get the spell. Now, Drowned Dan is very interesting. Basically, how he works is he casts an invulnerability minus 300 brace aura, making him immune to damage. At the start of the second round, Drowned Dan will reveal the first number of the code. Each time a minion is defeated, the next number of the code is revealed at the start of the following round. Now, what these codes are is you need to use a spell that has that amount of pips in the code in that order on Drowned Dan, and he will remove his aura. If you mess up, you have to restart at the very beginning, so do keep that in mind. Now, I think the best way to deal with this boss, obviously wait until round 2, see the first number of the code, then AoE spell, then you need to have like 2 or 3 people that have a bunch of different spells in their deck from 1 pip ranging up to 11 pips. Again, for lower levels, it doesn't go up to 11 pips. Like, I think the tier 1 version is only goes up to 7 pips, so keep that in mind. And you just do the combination. So say it's, 1, 5, 7, 11, you could do like Fire Cat into Phoenix, into the Selenopolis spell into Scion. You could do that. And then he will remove the aura, and then you can kill him like a normal boss. This boss isn't anything particularly challenging per se, it's just a little bit annoying. He also drops the Celestian Spelemental pack gear, which is interesting, but nothing too good, to be completely honest, and the Celestian mech mount. So there are those drops as well, but obviously I think Ship of Fools is the star of the show here. All right, next up, here in the Crystal Caves in Avalon, as far and deep into Avalon as you can get, we have Lambent Fire. Now, Lambent Fire drops Brave Sir Badger, Burning Rampage, Catalan, Deer Knight, Handsome Fomori, Sacred Charge, and Reckon Etten. He also drops 3 mounts and a bunch of gear. Now, similar to Takanobu the Masterless, you can actually craft gear right here from the reagents that he drops. So you can see here, the gear is nothing really to speak of. I think it's actually incredibly similar to the gear that was dropped from Takanobu the Masterless. Now, honestly, his cheats aren't anything that are particularly challenging. If you cast a Universal Blade, he'll cast Steel Charm. If you cast a Universal Trap, such as Feint, he will cast an Immolate, so he'll remove it and then hit you as well. When any of his Skirker minions cast a natural attack, it will cast an Immolate version that sacrifices 100% of max health on itself, and at the end of every round, Lambent Fire will resummon all Skirker Buster minions that were defeated or missing on the battlefield. When all 3 Skirker Busters are present, there is a cheat that will cycle at the end of each round and repeats itself after 3 rounds. So at the end of the first round, they will cast a Dark Pact. At the end of the second round, it'll cast a Sacrifice, and at the end of the third round, it will cast a Cursed Juju on a random wizard. Now, a Cursed Juju is just a minus 90% weakness. So for this fight, really, what you're going to be doing is trap stacking, blade stacking, and then probably carrying a Cleanse Charm if you want to cleanse the wizard who is going to hit the round before they hit. This one is not a very difficult boss whatsoever, to be honest. Just keep in mind, you can't use Universal Blades and Universal Traps. Really, I don't think there's anything else to speak of for this boss. Again, this is one of the 2 that actually drops gear, so if you want some gear, you can farm some gear from here. It's nothing particularly good, to be honest. They look kind of cool, so if you want like a gear that looks cool, you could probably get that. All right, next up and finally, funny enough, we actually have probably the easiest gold skeleton key boss out of all of them. Now, this gold skeleton key boss, Ixcax CursedWing, right here in the 3 points across here. Yeah, you can see the sigil over there. They drop the Lord of the Night spell, the Savage Paw spell, and the Winter Moon spell. So 3 spells that aren't particularly interesting. They also drop like 7 mounts, which is pretty cool, not gonna lie. So that's pretty sick. This boss isn't difficult whatsoever. If you cast a Feint on them, they will cheat cast a Feint on you. If an ally or enemy is defeated, they will cheat cast Berserk, and then the remaining minions will cast Fortify. At the end of every 5th round, Ixcax casts a cheat version of Cleanse Ward that removes all negative wards from them and the team. So this one, really easy. Feint stack in like the first 2 rounds and then into a hit. That's really it. If you triple Feint into a blade, you're gonna kill. It's simply as easy as that with a 7-pip AoE. Boom, you one shot. This one isn't anything to speak of, really. And honestly, the drops aren't as well. Honestly, if I were to do this boss, it would really just be because it drops like 7 separate mounts, and 7 mounts is pretty good. The gear that you can actually get from this isn't anything really to speak of. There is some crown gear, but otherwise, that's pretty much it. Now, that right there is all of the gold skeleton key bosses bosses in Wizard 101, what their cheats are, how to deal with them, and what they drop. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found this useful, but that's basically it for today. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. Have a fantastic day.